Welcome back to the Graham Stephan Show, and I want to comment on this. I recently came across an article that found that 2 out of 3 Americans were more worried about running out of money than they were of dying. Let that sink in for a second. More worried about running out of money. How did we even get to this spot? How did American savings just disappear? What happened to all the stimulus money? Well, that sent me down a rabbit hole that brought me to this video here from CNBC titled, "Where did American savings go?" So I want to comment on this as soon as you hit the like button and subscribe, because that helps with the channel tremendously, and as a thank you for doing that, I'll do my best to respond to your comments. So thanks so much, and now let's begin.
In 2022, the American personal saving rate fell to a low not seen since the Great Recession.
I think a lot of people have been just kind of cooped up during the pandemic times, and now we're transitioning plus inflation. So it definitely has been a little bit harder.
Okay, so it's 2 things really going on. Number 1, you have the type of person who is cooped up. They got a lot of stimulus money. They were getting unemployment. They're getting the $600 extra every single week. They're accumulating savings and they had nowhere to spend it. Then things open back up and they have all this money and they think, now I could go and spend it. Now I could go on the vacations. Loans are really cheap. I may as well get that car that I always wanted. I may as well move into this house that I've always wanted to have. And they spend it all. You also have the other type of person who didn't do that, but who's simply the victim of rising prices and inflation. Maybe for them, their wages haven't kept up with the cost of living. Maybe for them, their insurance costs are going up. Maybe for them, food is costing way more. And it's just a slow grind down where maybe they had $20,000 of savings, but over time, it just chipped away, and now they don't have any money left. So there's definitely 2 types of people out there. I would venture to say most people fall in the second category. Most people are simply the victims of rising prices, rising inflation, and wages just not keeping up. And that, I think, goes without saying, is the vast majority of people probably in the United States.
70% say they are stressed about their personal finances, and that includes 57% of people earning $100,000 or more. And the main factors contributing to financial stress for the 6-figure set include inflation, economy-wide instability, interest rates, and a lack of savings.
Here's the thing I'll tell you. No matter how much money you make, you're always going to be worried about finances in one way or another. It's all relative. Like the person making $200,000 a year is worried about their $5,000 a month rent payments, as the $100,000 a year person might be worried about their $2,500 rent payments in San Francisco, after paying taxes and childcare and, insurance costs and all these other miscellaneous things that go into just quality of life. So, usually the problems scale with income. That's just generally what it is. It's not the way it should be, but generally that's the way it works. And I found no correlation with earning more money and feeling better about finances. Like you even see this, there are just as many people living paycheck to paycheck making over, I believe it was like $150,000 a year as there are at $50,000 a year. So sometimes just stress is a psychological thing. No matter how much money you make, there's always going to be some level of stress that whatever you have could go away.
According to bank deposit records, Americans as a whole are still better off than they've traditionally been. Regardless, Americans across the board were drawing down those savings in the final quarter of 2022. So, what effect will that have on this massive group of people that we call the economy?
Definitely a K-shaped recovery. So you have, again, I hate to go back to these 2 types of people. You have 2 types of people here. People that were invested in the markets saw great appreciation with their assets. Inflation ended up benefiting stocks, ended up benefiting car values, ended up benefiting housing, commodities. A lot of these things went up with inflation. The people that didn't have money invested got left out. Now everything is way more expensive and they're earning less relative to how much everything else is costing. So you have 2 groups of people there, and it really depends. Did you have money invested before? Are you actively investing money? And if not, everything is a lot more.
8% of my total income, and that is to my 401 contributions. My company matches at 8%. I also try to save an additional 15%, as well as another about 10% of my take-home pay I put towards my investing goals as well.
Good. She's doing what she should be doing. She's doing what a lot of people should really be buckling down, reducing expenses as much as possible, trying to optimize income, and then invest it. She is a role model, I think, for what should be done. You got to max out that Roth, max out employer 401k contributions, preferably in a very well-diversified index fund that covers the overall market, and you do that consistently over a very long period of time. It's really that simple. That's all it is. 15% minimum, preferably 20, and you're set. Just keep doing that.
In February 2023, the personal saving rate was hovering around 4.5%. That's compared to a long-term average of just under 9%.
See, some of it, I believe, is a lack of financial literacy combined with the fact that incomes have not kept up with the rising cost of living. That's really what it comes down to. And if financial habits were more optimized, they were taught earlier, people could compensate for some of that discrepancy. Not all of it, but some of it. It'll help. But the bigger picture here is that the cost of everything is rising so much that more of your income is taken up by necessities like food, insurance, housing, could be transportation. For wealthy people, you know, those costs don't scale. It's like it costs the same for the most part to be able to eat for the bare necessities if you're worth $1 billion or if you're worth $100. Like, you still need food. You still need the bare minimum in our bodies. All of our bodies are pretty much the exact same. So given that, wealthy people are able to have a much smaller percentage of their disposable income go to necessities, and therefore they're able to invest a lot more and reap the advantages of a rising market. If you don't have that, more of your income gets taken up by necessities, it's going to be really tough.
37% of Americans have not touched their pandemic savings, and 45% of Americans either haven't touched it or have taken out a little bit, but the majority is intact.
See, here's the thing. We get so many confusing reports on this. We've heard reports time and time again that Americans are running out of their excess savings. All the excess savings is going to be gone by, at first it was October, then it was January, and now it's like the excess savings is still there. Other studies, on the other hand, show that Americans have more money than ever. Savings accounts have the highest amount they've had in a very long time. I don't know what to believe. I think it really just depends on what study you listen to. And if you want to study for one thing, you could find it. If you look hard enough, you could find a study that the housing market is going down. You find a study that the housing market is going up. The people are rich. The people are poor. There's so many different studies out there that I just don't know what to trust anymore.
Sometimes when you scare people enough into thinking there's going to be a recession, they will stop consuming, and it can be a self-fulfilling prophecy.
See, that's way more common than a lot of people think. It's called the observer effect. And once you observe something, the fact that you're even observing it means that you can take actions ahead of time to prevent that thing from happening. So even if you get all the indicators that say, oh, the market's going to do this, if people know that and they price that in, it stops doing this. Whatever you thought would happen based on charts no longer happens, and there you go. It's called the observer effect. It's really interesting. But yeah, like a lot of people thought it was that case with the inverted yield curve. The fact that we know, oh, that predicts a recession. Still no recession. Is that because we're aware of it now and we're acting differently because we know what it means? Maybe. Or maybe it's not as correlated as we thought. I don't know.
It's a lot happening right now. People are losing jobs. There's just so much happening that it's okay if you're not having a 15% savings rate, but just as long as you're starting somewhere.
See, that's a great point too, is that a lot of people don't mind just taking the guaranteed 5% in a savings account, letting it ride and thinking, you know what, my money is safe. I could get it at any time, no matter what happens in the market, my money is there. So instead of investing it in the stock market, they'll put it in a savings account and say, okay, maybe I get 8% in the stock market long term, but I get a guaranteed 5 right now and I don't have to risk it and I don't have to worry. I can see a lot of people doing that, not investing in the markets, riding the savings account, and that's contributing to some of this higher savings rate that we're seeing. Definitely a possibility.
When it comes to your standard checking account, big banks like Wells Fargo, TD, Chase, and Bank of America routinely offer low returns. By contrast, high-yield savings accounts can deliver much more in interest.
Speaking of that, by the way, if you guys want $20 for like the next 5 minutes worth of work, which is a really good deal, check out Acorns down below in the description. I have an affiliate link, and they're only offering this, as far as I'm aware, for like the next few days. So if you haven't done it yet, now is time to do it. Go to acorns.com/Graham. Like I said, it's an affiliate link, but what you could do when you sign up and follow the terms, whatever's on their website, you'll get $20 as a bonus, which is fantastic. And what Acorns does, by the way, is they take your purchases and they round it up to the nearest dollar, and then they invest that difference on your behalf without you even thinking about it. Been using them for gosh, almost 6 years now, give or take. I love them. I have almost, it's almost 100 grand with them just through regular contributions over the last 6 years. It's been amazing. So if you want to be a part of that, the link is down below in the description. Get your $20. And like I said, probably less time than it takes you to watch this section of the video. So enjoy that 20 bucks. You only got a few days left to do it. Enjoy. And now let's get back to the video.
Roughly 6 million Americans were unbanked in recent years. This means they don't use checking or savings accounts. The most common reasons were lack of funds, or they simply don't trust banks.
I don't get how you couldn't trust banks unless you're doing something illegal. Am I the only one who's thinking that? I get it. Okay, there's probably a small amount of people who just don't like banks for whatever reason. I think it's kind of silly. I don't particularly get it, I'm not the biggest fan of some banks out there, but I don't think they're bad. I think some banks are fantastic. But for most people, it's hey, if you're not doing anything legal, put your money in the banks. It's fine. You're FDIC insured up to $250,000. Just find a bank without fees. If you find a bank without all the crazy fees, Ally Bank is a good example of that. Use them. Enjoy it. You may as well get some interest for it.
Saving $1 today is still more than saving $0 today. So if you can only start small and let that habit grow, you're still doing amazing.
I agree. A lot of this just starts with very small changes. It's saving up the first $5 a day. That's it. Then bumping that up to $10 a day. Investing that. Start seeing that money grow on top of that. And again, Acorns. You could use Acorns. It's just without even thinking about it. If you're not investing anything, acorns.com/Graham could be a great place to do that because like I said, they just round up your purchases to the nearest dollar. It gets you saving more money than you would otherwise. That's why I like it. But you could also get the $20 down below in the description as well. But anyway, it all starts with something small. It grows over time. It compounds. It's not going to be get rich quick. It's going to be get rich over the next 20 years. I know it doesn't sound exciting, but you know what? 20 years from now, when you have $1 million in the bank, you're going to be looking back and you'll be like, great, I'm so glad I hit the like button and subscribed if you haven't done that already. So thank you guys so much. And with that said, until next time.